Hey, what's going on guys? My name is Akmal and welcome to my very first tutorial on Nemo. Sounds good, right? But what's it? What does it mean, Nemo? You may have already come up with a question, again, the new framework or something new in the JS families. Actually, no guys, don't worry, this is not something new. And what does it mean? I'll tell you in seconds. So first of all, let's talk about the mean, which stands for MongoDB Express.js and AngularJS and the NodeJs. So I'm talking about the full stack JavaScript development. And simultaneously, the Nemo stands for Node.js, Express.js, MongoDB, and OpenUI5. And the name was suggested in OpenUI5 conference in 2016. And for me, it really makes sense and sounds good. Okay, the next question you may ask that why Nemo? As I am a UI5 guy and fan of SAP technologies, I just want to use SAP related technologies, but there is a problem that what if I do not have any access to database. So I have researched and I found this Nemo really helpful on this purpose because it enables me to run my application locally and with OpenUI5 of course. And OpenUI5 is the same with the SAP UI5, but this is open source as the name suggests. Yes, it's true that there are some features that we cannot see in OpenUI5, but this is not a big problem because many other controls you can see in the OpenUI5 and same in the SAP UI5. So, and as for the database, I just want to use MongoDB, or if you want to use any other SAP related technology such as HANADB or something like this, you can have a free trial access to HANA Cloud platform and you can connect it with Node.js. And but guys, for some reasons I prefer to use MongoDB, and I will tell you why in seconds. So let's talk then what I'm going to develop during this series of tutorials. I'm gonna develop the application something called Bookshop, where you can both make CRUD operations as admin and you can search for book or edit or order it, and if you want to buy it, add it to your cart as a user. So in order to have imagination, let me show you guys. Okay, and here is the CRUD um, operation page of our application, and you can see here you can add the new book and search for book by ID. For example, let's search, and here you can see the my items in my book list, and I have now 4 items, and let's search for the book number 2. Okay, and Rebecca you can see, or for 3. Okay, the ghost. So this is a search functionality, and if you want to add something you have to write the book ID, title, and etc. And for updating or deleting the item, so you have to select row and you can see the pop-up, and here you can update or delete it. Now let me show these items in my database. So it is a Mongodb Shell, and by typing this show DBs you can see the 4 these databases that I have now, and the current database that I'm using in this application is called the BookDB. So let's use it. Use BookDB, and it's switched to BookDB, and I just want to show you guys the collections. So use the collections. Oh, sorry, show collections. And I have for now only one collection for this application. It's called book data, and I want to see all the items inside this. So let's type db and then name of the collection bookdb and find all items inside it. And okay, sorry, not the bookdb, it is book data. Okay, so you can see the 4 items in my collection, inside the collection, and if I want to display it in the beautiful format, in the JSON format, I have to edit here the pretty. Okay, in the JSON format you can see. And let's make one of our CRUD operations. Let's delete one of these items here, and for example let's delete the last one. Yes, okay, so delete it. And here we have remained the three items, and let's check in database also. For now, let's clear it, and you can see only three items remained in the collection also. Okay, so let's start little talk about the theory and the tool that I'm gonna use on these tutorials. And we will use the Node.js as it's an open source server environment, and to build our local server and to work with the HTTP requests. And Express.js is a famous Node.js framework, and we will use it to work with HTTP requests with routing and as a middleware. And MongoDB, this is a NoSQL database, and we will create the collections to save our data, and it uses JSON, so it's really ideal to use with the JS applications. And OpenUI5, the last thing and the important one, it's a JavaScript Ui library consisting of a feature-rich core and really large number of UI controls that are organized in a handful of libraries. And guys, what do I mean by feature-rich? I mean stuff like data binding, models for different data sources, efficient engines for creating and updating the HTML of controls, yes, and it also supports the model view of controller concept, which is really good. And let me talk little about my tool belt. So for this video tutorials, I'm gonna use Code Visual Studio as an IDE, or you can use any IDE that you want to develop your application, such as WebStorm or PHP Storm, and WebIDE, Eclipse, or whatever you want. But what I'm going to use Code Visual Studio, it's free and it's really lightweight, and you can download it here on this link. And Git I will use to source as a source control, gulp to build my stuff, and in order to install some modules, some necessary packages, I will use the Node Package Manager, which is npm. So okay, if you do not know all about these above spoken technologies very well, just don't worry, I'll try my best to explain everything during the coding. Just practice them, and practice makes perfect. So let's start the coding then, and today I'm going to show you guys how to set up your workspace, and we will create the package, and inside this we will create the package.json file and install some necessary features with the Node Package Manager. Okay, let's before opening this Code Visual Studio, make sure that you have downloaded Node.js, and you can download it here, Node.js download, and according to your operating system you can download it. And I just decided not to show it because there are a lot of tutorials that showed how to download and install Node.js, and it's not the big problem. And after downloading and install, please create any package that you are going to develop all these tutorials. And here I have created the package which is called Bookshop, and after also installing this Visual Code Studio, I highly recommend you guys install some plugins here. In the extension you can install something, for example Beautify. It makes your code really beautiful and easy to work, and if you type JavaScript, you can see all JavaScript code snippets or the keywords that will enable you to write your code really beautiful and safely. Okay, now first thing is first, and let's create our package.json, and it's gonna be the structure of our application. So in order to create it, I will write it npm init yes. So this command will just initialize our package.json file. Okay, here you can see this, and inside this the name of the application, the version and description you can add here, and our main file is gonna be the index.js. And in order to test this command, I can write here npm test, and it should show this echo for me. Okay, so you can see the echo, and in these scripts you can add your, for example, your own comments that makes your job really easy. So we will add it in a minute. Okay, now let's create our index.js file, the new file, and name it like index.js. And inside it I'm gonna use HTTP module of the node. So let's create it HTTP and let's require it. So now I have the HTTP and I'm gonna use the create server method of this HTTP. Let's create again one variable which is called server and use HTTP create server methods, and inside it the function, and function requires two variables, which is request and rest. So request is something which was sent by URL on the browser, and rest the response, which means that after doing some logic you have to send response to the browser. So if request dot URL, just by default I'm in the main page, so just send response to the browser like hello world, and let's end it. So we have created server and I have to tell server which port it should listen. So server listens port 3000. Okay, so now if I on the browser, if I just type the localhost 3000, I should see the message hello world. But before this, let's run this server. So we can run it with node and the name of the file, index.js in my case. Sorry. One thing here, you can see that address is already in use, which means that I cannot use 3000 because here my application, the bookshop, yes, it uses this 3000. So let's switch it off, and here again, so Control C, and yes, I want to switch off this server. And now let's return and run it. Okay, localhost 3000. You can see this hello world. Okay, now let's create some routine here. If this is not the main page, if there is something, for example, URL like list, yes, so which stands for localhost/list. So in this case I should send the response like this is a list of books and rest ends here. Okay, before testing it, make sure guys you have to stop server and run it again, because we have made some changes in the code. So you can stop it with a Control C and run it again with node and the name of your file. Okay, it runs again, and here I can see that localhost 3000 is hello world, and if I type /list, here this is a list of books. Okay, this is something called the routine, but in the real world application we will not use in this way, because here I have to write a lot of ifs in that case. So for this purpose we will install something called like express. So express we will use to build our requests, our API. So in order to install it, let's type npm install, or you can just type I, which stands for the install and express. Okay, so it starts. Let's wait. Okay, now if you check the package.json, you can see the dependencies express, and this is a version of the express, and you can see it's created the node module package, and inside this node module packages you can see the express here. Okay, now it means that I can use express in my application. Okay, now let's clear this terminal. And again, one thing guys, I just want to tell you, every time if I change something in my code, I have to stop the server and run it again, which is really annoying. To eliminate this, just install npm I for install, yes, and nodemon. What is the nodemon? It stands for the node monitor, and it automatically considers any changes in your code. So after changing something in the code, you do not have to stop the server and run it again. So let's install it. And one thing, let's comment out this piece of code because I do not need it anymore. Okay, it's finished installed. No, it is still, yes, it's finished. Okay, and in the package.json you can see the nodemon and its versions of the nodemon. And here again, now if I want to use the server, if I want to execute the server, I have to write nodemon and index.js. So it's really also annoying. So let's create our own keyword, our command, yes, to start our server. So I call it just a start, and it stands for node.js, nodemon index.js. Okay, and now just I have to type npm start to start my server. So before starting server, let's add here something like the code that now we are going to use the express. Let's require express. So require express, and let's create the variable which is called app. This is gonna be our application, and it will use all the items inside this express class. Okay, now if you write the app, and you can see the all HTTP methods, yes, such as get, post, push, and delete. So for now, let's as example use the get, and I have to show the path here. So it's gonna be the default, and as arrow notation you can also write, or you can write the function like here, function, or with arrow notations. Okay, and again it will require actually two parameters such as request and response, and it will send as a response something like this is express. Okay, and I have to tell app which port it should listen. Again, the app listen and 3000. And again, one thing guys, just eliminating the hard code in our code. I mean not just writing the 3000, because now it's localhost and we can use any port that we want, but when you deploy it, server will the real time, yes, and server will provide the port that you do not know. Because of this, let's here create the variable which is called port, and the process environment dot port. So what does mean that this gonna be the number of port which will be provided by the server. So if we have the process environment port, just use it. If not, just use 3000. Okay, now it's good. Port, and make sure that it works. So just to be aware of it started. So let's write it console.log and listens to port and number of port. Okay, now let's start it. npm start. Okay, it starts, and to restart, blah blah blah, and watching. Yes, it starts, and here you can see the listening to port 3000. And now if I see the 3000 on browser, you can see, oh sorry, not the list, just now. Here, this is Express. Okay, cool. Now Express starts work. And now here you can also create something like the API post, yes, or API put. You know that we will use a post to insert some data to the database, and we will use a put request to update something, and we will use a delete to delete the existing item in our database. And again, I'm gonna tell you one thing, guys. In the Express, this is something which is called road, and this is really cool. For example, let's use it. Road, yes, and for example, list, yes, and I have the path or routing which is called list, and inside this list I have four this HTTP requests such as put, post, delete, and also get. So in order not to write just api.get list, api.post list, so I can use routes which enables me to create the chain methods of HTTP. So here get and function and something like this, and again and post and let's also edit put. Okay, good. So now if I send get request with path list, so this will work. If it's post request, it will work, and if it is put, the last function should work. Okay, let's send something like less. This is a get request. This is a for example post request, and send, this is put. Or you can also write, for example, yes, this is get, is just it will get some items from the database, yes, and post will create some data to the inside the database, and put will update something. Okay, now this is a question that, for example, yes, we can test this for the get only on the browser, because if you write here slash list, it will, let me check it, roads, sorry, I didn't save it. Yes, and here you can see that server starts due to change, so I do not have to stop server and restart it again. Okay, now let's test it. This is a get request. The problem was I didn't save this file. Now it's saved and it's changed, and you can see this localhost 3000/list, and it shows my get request. So in order to test this post and put requests, we have something which is called Postman. I recommend you guys to install this Postman, and you can download it here. Postman download. Yes, here. So what's Postman? It really helps you to work with HTTP requests as post, get, and put, yes. So you can test it here. For example, I want to test the post, so it is a localhost/list, and let's send it, and you can see the result. This is a post request. Or if it is a put request, so the same thing, and this is put request. And here in the body, the row, the JSON, and if you want to update something, so in request body you can type your data here and you can test the result as well. So there is actually the famous two application for this purpose, which is Insomnia, and the next one is Postman. So I prefer to use Postman. Okay, so this is something called the chain method in of HTTP requests.